Hey everybody, Alex here, and welcome to another video, Remakes and Replays, a series of Backlog Be Damned, a replay of a game I've previously finished, or playing and re-experiencing a game that just got an HD remake, remaster, whatever, re-release, you tell me. So, I'll be honest, right off the muscle, I'm a little conflicted with doing this game. Because the purpose of this series is really to see if a game hits me a little bit different, like emotionally, mentally, time and place. Does that play a part into it? All that stuff. It's not really a review, although I do compare and contrast a little bit. But I'm having a very difficult time remembering where I was mentally when I played Sonic Adventure. Wow, Sonic Colors on the Wii. I could tell you what was going on, but where I was, it's a little difficult. It's a little fuzzy, to be honest. And I think that's also why doing a sort of, I guess you could say, video chronicling of, of this stuff is so important to me, because as good as my memory is, memory isn't a permanent thing unless you preserve it. And we've seen that with digital distribution and all this other stuff. I'm not going to go down that tangent. But Sonic Colors, I can't tell you where I was mentally 100%, but I can tell you how I initially discovered it. And truthfully, it came during a pretty bad part of my life. We're talking like 2011. And what's really funny is prior to this recording, I actually remembered I bought it from Amazon, and I looked up when it was, and it was literally February 2011. So we're talking like the Valentine's Day time, me coming to a birthday, it not being a leap year. I was struggling with a work-life balance. Honestly, it really wasn't good at all. My social life was definitely suffering from it at that point. And honestly, I was also just not really sleeping all that great. And I was living by myself. So, that being said, since I really was dealing with the loss of my uncle still, despite that much time, and I don't believe I've actually mentioned this before, but with my uncle, when he passed away and we had a service for him and everything else, I gave a eulogy because I knew he would have wanted me to. And trust me, I checked the grammar on it 12 times because he would have beat the crap out of me if I didn't. And I gave it no problem whatsoever. I was perfectly good. Went to the after thing, perfectly fine. Weeks went by. Months went by. And then, I kid you not, one day I'm working out and I just burst out into tears. And that's the whole thing when it comes to, I would say, grief and everything else. It's different for everybody, right? And me going through playing games, and as I said, I got back into video game collecting because I wanted to recapture. So that was me trying to bring myself some relief to the grief I was experiencing with his loss. But when you couple that with a situation where you're not really able to venture out and enjoy time with friends and everything else, and for the most part you're pretty isolated. And even then, I'm not saying you shouldn't. I saw my parents almost every weekend, and it wasn't because I didn't want to. It's not because I felt obligated. There was just nobody else around. Everybody else had moved on with their lives and was doing other things, The days of calling somebody up on a Friday and going, yo, what are you doing right now? Were gone, especially now as I've gotten older. You tell somebody, hey, what are you doing this weekend? You all of a sudden see bubbles coming up on your phone for 20 minutes because they're literally typing out their whole itinerary. You got to book them a year in advance at this point. It's ridiculous. But I was still looking for that, I guess you could say, quick, hey, let's go out and, let's go for drinks. Let's go for dinner. Let's do this. Let's do that. No, I can't do it. And my friends eventually stopped asking me. Because no, he's always working, he's always working, he's always working, always asleep, always asleep. It's true. And a bunch of you guys know, freaking 9 o'clock, I conk out for the most part. But I'm also up at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning to this day, even though I really don't need to be. So that's where YouTube started to come into my life. I started watching a lot of YouTube, and I was, interacting in comments, and eventually I'd start my own channel and do videos and make internet friends and, all that stuff. But I was also listening to the All Gen Gamers podcast. Now, I can see a few people nodding along as I say that. Because those dudes really, I want to say, they brought that hobby and they united collecting YouTube personalities and I guess you could say cross promotion of other people, individuals within the hobby to light to me. And this is also where we started, or I started to learn about, and I know he didn't coin the phrase, somebody else did, hidden gems. But Pete Dorr, who I got on watching his channel a little bit late by comparison to Johnny and Gamester. Going through his back catalog, I was seeing things, and I've said this before, games I had never even heard of. And, this is stuff I grew up looking at, and I never knew this was a thing. I never knew this game came out on this, that, the third, right? And he was talking about something that they did. I'm sorry, let me back up. Something that they did every episode was they would open up with games that we're playing. And, as of this recording with me doing Video Games Gaiden, the reason why I don't really open with that, not because it's kind of coined and it's cliche, it's none of that stuff, but for the most part, I find everybody's kind of sort of playing the same stuff, except for a handful of you who never cease to surprise me when you pull a rabbit out of the hat. But for the most part, I feel like the YouTube landscape has changed to the point where when a new game comes out, the new hotness comes out, everybody tends to be playing the same thing, if not something adjacent to that. Hey, a new Mana game came out. Hey, I'm playing the new one. Hey, I'm playing the one previously. Hey, a new Trails game came out. Oh my god, I am so behind. I'm playing 3 entries behind that. The variety, at least to me, is gone. But with All Gen Gamers, because this was new and because, people were doing pickup videos for the most part and reviews and all that stuff, hidden gems and diamonds in the rough and, unlikely heroes of gaming were very commonplace. And one day Pete just happens to mention Sonic Colors on the Wii. And he starts to describe the game. And I'm like, this sounds kind of cool. This sounds kind of interesting. And to be honest, I don't even remember if I did a pickup video with this or even if I was recording YouTube, because prior to this, which is why my hair's all disheveled, more so than normal, is because I went through my closet to dig out the old hard drives to see if I could figure out when or if I had recorded this and I was going to insert it here. But apparently those hard drives are wiped. And it's not because of me wiping them, it's because of age. I did not realize that these hard drives are from back in 2011. That is over 10 years ago. And the rule of thumb, you make a backup of the backup of the backup, and I had 2 different backups. All of them are gone. And that kind of hurts. And that's where I say memory is important, right? I'm smarter than this. I should have made another backup. My sorcery backlog has 2 different backups, and I actually change it every couple of years, and I didn't do it with the YouTube videos. And that was the one saving grace when I did originally wipe this channel, was that I felt like I could always go back and toss it all up, and I could re-experience it. Now I actually can't, which is where remakes and replays comes in. See, bring it full circle. Because you can technically re-experience something. And here I am talking about a game I literally played like 11, 12 years ago. And it was based on a recommendation in the glorious days of the YouTube gaming community. I have to squeeze that in every episode. I'm sorry, guys. But it was so cool because I was literally listening to this podcast every morning going to work. And honestly, I hate to coin this phrase because I know the algorithm is going to like it. When I was debating on changing careers, which I eventually did a few years ago, I'll never forget one of my old director of banquets. He pulled me aside one day, and he could tell I was burned out. And he said, listen, if you ever start waking up and hating your life when you go to work, it's time for you to do something different. I don't care if it's a new job. I don't care if it's you tendering a resignation to me. I don't care about any of that. You have to find and you have to enjoy your time because nobody else is going to give it to you. Big words, right? I don't know what it is, but the way Pete was talking about a Sonic game, I had not played a Sonic game, admittedly, since Sonic Adventure 2 on the GameCube, which my uncle purchased for me way back in the day. The way he described it got me excited. It made me happy. It made me think maybe this is something where I can remove myself from all the garbage that's going on in my life right now. And ironically, I purchased it with Dragon Quest IX, which I still have not played. And, you know, that's another thing. But the one memory I do have of this game is that when it came in, this was back in the day of, okay, I have Amazon. I need to put in $25 worth of stuff in the cart, otherwise the shipping isn't free because Prime didn't exist. And that's probably why I got Dragon Quest IX. And I got them from Amazon warehouse deals. I got both games for $50. It's ridiculous when you think about it. But I got the game home, turned off the lights, lit a candle, pulled out a Diet Coke, because that's always been a thing. And I started playing this Sonic game that Pete was singing the praises of, and I immediately fell in love with it. Because it was like playing and watching a Saturday morning cartoon. It made me remember the old Sonic the Hedgehog cartoon, the one with Jaleel White, or as I used to call it, the crappy animated version. Because it was so irreverent. There's like lines in it. There's like one bit where they go on about, I think it's in the water world, the water level or the water park, because the levels are essentially planets that are themed around an amusement park. And they make a joke how Sonic goes, how can you have a water amusement park and no sushi spot? And then you hear over the loudspeaker, the Bucket O Sushi is now serving sushi. And, you know, it's like stupid jokes like that that made me think back to that Saturday morning cartoon. And then, you know, ultimately somebody eats the sushi and gets sick. I think it's Tails. And then towards the end of the game, one of the henchman robots goes, man, we never did get sushi at the Bucket O Sushi, did we? You know, and it's not Scratch and Grounder, but they're very similar in terms of the slapstickness, and Robotnik is an evil, bumbling genius in this one. He's not as menacing as I seem to remember him in some of the other games. And going through this game, I'll be honest, it was freaking hard. I feel like I played this game for a very long time. Maybe it was the waggle controls. Maybe it was the fact that I was playing a Wii for the first time, because I actually didn't have it hooked up at the time, on a flat panel television, LCD. When I got the Wii and I lived at home, I actually had a CRT in my room. So all of a sudden I'm experiencing delays. Everything is blurry. Everything looks like a mess. And I don't know if that played an effect into it, or the fact that my TV was now over 6 feet away from me and I couldn't just, you know, do this the whole time. This is where my microphone is. So, like, you know, basically just wave my hand to get to where I had to go. I actually figured out I had to stand up, because otherwise there was too much interference between my coffee table and everything else going on. It was ridiculous. And the last boss, admittedly, we all know it's Robotnik. Come on. But, man, it gave me such difficulty. But I think what was really cool about this game was it was a Sonic the Hedgehog game I had not experienced before. Because there's no friends. You know, the last two Sonic games I played previous to this were Sonic Adventure 1 and 2, where we had, you know, Rose, we had Knuckles, we had Big the Cat, we had Tails. We got to play as all those. And this game we didn't. I never played Heroes. I never played Rivals. I never played Sonic 06. I never played any of those. Sonic and the Black Knight, Sonic and the Secret Rings. Skipped over all of it. I was not interested at all. But I was sold on Pete's description of this game through an audio podcast. I bought it sight unseen, without listening, without watching any video. His enthusiasm, his love of Sonic, admittedly he's a huge Sonic fan, is what made me want to play this game. And it felt good. I had a really good time with it, and it pulled me out of all this crap, despite me having so much difficulty with the roller coaster level. To this day, it is the bane of my existence. My wife saw that me playing the remake. She was like, wow, you're having a lot of difficulty. And I went, shut up. Like, you don't know the story behind this. I'm talking like a week, guys. It took me a week. I feel like I played the original Sonic Colors for like a month and a half. It took me forever to go through it. Sonic Colors Ultimate, I literally went through in 2.5 days. And I honestly don't remember all the levels being as short as they were. Everything took like a minute, 5 minutes tops. I don't know how. But the timing of me actually wanting to play Sonic Colors Ultimate. I mean, truthfully, I picked out a handful of games I wouldn't mind doing a remakes and replay on, Sonic Colors being one of them. But the timing is ultimately the same as when I played the original Sonic Colors. I'm okay. But real life sometimes takes a toll on you. It gets exhausting mentally, physically. Sometimes you don't know whether you're coming or going. Sometimes you think you have everything under control, and in reality, you really don't. And guess what? It's okay. You're never, ever going to have everything under control 101% of the time, let alone 99.9% of the time, let alone 80% of the time. And that's okay. That's what video games are here for, an escape. And that's why I decided to play this game when I did. Had nothing to do with the fact that I was like, oh, okay, I'm technically in a dark spot. I literally looked at my wife and said, I want to play a Sonic game. And she pointed something out to me. And I pointed this out to somebody else. And I pointed this out in a Discord community as well. Sonic games have ultimately become a comfort food for me. This year alone, I finished, I think it was Sonic Chaos, Sonic 3D Blast, which was a Leap Kid game, which honestly, forget that nonsense. And I finished Sonic Forces. And guess what? Sonic Forces is actually a pretty damn good game. I don't know what y'all are talking about. I had a blast with it. And now here I am playing Sonic Colors. I grew up as a Mario kid. Sonic is ultimately a thing with my uncle. And at the time, Sonic Colors, when I played the original, I was in a dark spot and it made me think of him. And I also had somebody else who sold me on something in a genre and in a franchise I had not played for several years. Not even since I lived with my parents. When it came to Sonic Colors Ultimate, it was like, not a breath of fresh air, but it was refreshing, I was brought back to a much simpler time. And when I say simple, I don't mean mentally. I mean, like, I lived by myself. There wasn't half as much garbage in the background if I were to be shooting videos, to be completely honest. But my wife even said to me, she's like, you're becoming like a Sonic mega fan. Like, and I'm like, not really. And she's like, yeah, but think about it. And I thought about it really hard, and I actually rewatched my Game of the Month of the Year video from 2022, which was Sonic Frontiers. And I came to realize, yeah, I feel like I did get closure with my uncle's loss in Sonic Frontiers. And I don't think I'm chasing a euphoria or a release, but it helps me feel safe. And I realize this sounds really out there, guys. Like, trust me. But playing through this game, I went through it really fast. I wasn't like trying to get everything or whatever. But with all the nonsense going on, I was able just to go through this game. I got frustrated at a ton of points, and I was like, okay, this is the difficulty I remember, even though the game is admittedly a lot easier, I think, on a DualSense, rather. But I was able just to remove myself from everything briefly. And when I finished the game, I finished it at literally 5 in the morning. And there's a lot of people in those credits, let me tell you. But anyway, I think, truthfully, playing through this again, it hit the same, But I think the difference therein is the circumstances different. I was depressed when I originally played Sonic Colors, and I was looking for something to pull me out of it. And in this case, I am depressed, but I'm more so stressed out. There's factors I realize I have no control over. What I do have control over, and this is where I'm gonna diminish this a bit. I can control a hedgehog running through levels, right? And in a game that gives you quick, snappy levels, and basically lets you go fast, there is a little bit of a euphoria in there. Some dopamines do get released. The game is very colorful. It's very whimsy. The music is great. I don't remember the wisps, the color abilities. I remember them playing a bigger part, and in this, it doesn't seem like they were. Maybe it was just the novelty at the time. But the one thing I will say is, even rewatching some of these cutscenes, which they did not up-res, by the way, it's still the Wii resolution. It's blurry freaking mess. It looks like, Vaseline's on everything. But even my wife, unprompted, said to me, "This reminds me of the cartoon." And I was like, "Oh, you see it too." And she was like, "I am not watching this series with you this weekend. I'm watching you play this game, and I'm going to get my nails done. All right, that's it." But it felt good. It felt good. I don't think I'm as hot on the game as I was back in the day. It's much older, and Sonic Frontiers, and I think Forces honestly handled it a little bit better, and the bosses were definitely a lot cooler. But this game is still comfort food, man. It's still, even if only for 2.5 days ish, removed me from the nonsense I was dealing with. It was all worth it. And I think that's really where this whole series and me doing videos and everything else is in there, because sometimes you can look back and you can just be like, wow, I got through that. Or wow, I didn't realize I felt that way. Or wow, I didn't realize how far I've progressed, or how far I've come, or how much more gray hair I have, or wow, I really needed a haircut back then. I still need a haircut today. It's fun. It's great. I do think Sonic Colors maybe has a little bit of the rose-tinted glasses for me on the Wii, but Sonic Ultimate on the PS4 at the very least, because I truthfully wasn't going to bother with the Switch because Switch is Switch, I definitely think it hit the same. It did what it was supposed to do, which was to bring me out of some nonsense and ultimately just make me feel good. I've been Alex, and I'll see you all in the next video. Take care.